All right, ladies and gentlemen, the great daddy of them all, Submission Radio Mania is here. God damn, it's here. And I have a couple of guests that really tickle the pickle, if you know what I mean. The first man right here knows how to put 4K to use in a strip club in Miami. He joins us in the aftermath, the man behind Pub Talk, Mac Life, the one and only Oscar Willis, making his first Submission Radio live debut.
I appreciate the energy you came in with. Very, very much overstated for the actual level of guests you have. So I appreciated it.
And in the other corner, that's all he's going to say. In the other corner, you know him from being one of the guys, one of our favorite guys behind the scenes when it comes to MMA, one of the good guys. And of course, his amazing work with Ariel Helwani's Uncrowd, the boys in the back. New York Rick joining us from a rest room in the middle of nowhere. New York Rick, what's going on over there, man? Are there any glory holes where you are?
Can I just say, I was about to tell you how much more I appreciated my intro than I appreciated Oscar's, because you weren't going that direction with me, and then right at the end you swerved me. No, I'm at a beautiful residence inn in Pennsylvania because I'm taking my kids to Sesame Place, and awesome. I'm happy to be here. So thank you for having me.
Dude, it's good. It's good. Here we go. Here we are. Oscar, WrestleMania vibes right now in Las Vegas. How you feeling about it all, man? Stone Cold, is he riding up and down the street?
We got Stone Cold right there.
By the way, I thought it was funny that you gave me Stone Cold on the graphic, gave yourself Hulk Hogan, who's a known racist, and then Eric gave him Ric Flair, who's obviously a bit of a nonce. Just fun times. The vibes in WrestleMania week in Las Vegas, they got a lot going on.
Yeah.
As you alluded to earlier, my spending habits in Miami weren't great, so I can't attend all of the events as much as I'd like to. There is midget wrestling on tonight and tomorrow night. I'll obviously be at both of those. Hopefully get the VIP package there. But yeah, you've got loads of stuff. You've got SmackDown on Friday, weekend of WrestleMania, and then Monday night is Raw as well. So they've got loads of activations here. The airport has a massive championship belt as you come in, a big WrestleMania sign you could point out. They've kitted the whole thing out. It's WrestleMania week here in Vegas for sure.
Well, I'll tell you, man, still things cooking over in the MMA scene in the aftermath of the UFC 314, fellas. I don't know if you saw, one Ilia Topuria decides to do a little appearance on Joe Rogan, which was an interesting strategic move on his part, right? Seems like the big dog thought he was going to move up to 155, get the big title shot, and ended up going there in peak traffic, New York traffic, as the gridlock has basically effed up his entire plans. Now Volko is king again in featherweight. And Topuria doesn't know what the hell to do. New York Rick, what's your reaction when you see Topuria placing himself on Joe Rogan here a week after Paddy Pimblett gets his shit in UFC 314?
I gotta be honest. I gotta be honest. The plans got messed up by one Islam Makhachev. Like, Islam Makhachev's eyes being on that 170-pound prize has really put the lightweight division in a bit of flux and had to drastically alter Ilia Topuria's plans. All I can say is, it was a catastrophic miscalculation if you're Ilia Topuria and you vacated that title without being guaranteed a title shot. If you are now fighting Charles Oliveira or somebody similar, an Arman Sarukian, and there's no title on the line, that would be a worst case scenario. Now, if Islam moves up and they make him vacate and you're fighting for that title, great. No problem. Fantastic. Ilia Topuria can be champion. But I'm just hoping that he did not make a critical error and that the UFC comes through for him.
Is there some desperation here, Oscar, with him sort of jumping on Joe Rogan? Is he starting to get a little antsy here? Or
I think, look, I mean, he's been doing press conferences in Spain like every day for the past 2 months. So he's not shy of the limelight. He keeps pushing the narrative. I do find the whole situation interesting that you got Islam and Khabib saying you can't just move up and get a title shot. You have to beat someone here. But by the way, we'll move up and get the welterweight shot whenever we want. We don't have to fight at 170 one time. Essentially, all this is Bilal's fault. If Bilal just got out the way, we could get this thing done. But no, I'm kidding, but not kidding. But if I think they're waiting on that Jack Bilal fight, right? If Jack wins, Islam's going to move up. Then you do Ilia Charles for the vacant title, probably. A lot of stuff is in flux. I think there's all these fights to be made. There's just waiting to see which chips fall before you can make the actual fights. But as far as desperation, I don't think he's desperate. I think he just enjoys talking. Also, by the way, his English is pretty legit now. Like, he's coming out with philosophical statements and stuff. You know, he used to be shouting at Paddy Pimblett nonsense at a press conference, so fair play to him.
Yeah, he always has this look on his face like he's got a sexy secret, yeah? Anytime anyone asks him a question, he's got this little sexy smile happening. By the way, DJ Serenity saying New York Rick joining us from the dentist office lobby.
True.
Yes, that is appropriate. I might go get like one of those little cups of water later.
What about this? Lazy Bed. Rick should have been The Rock. Dennis and Oscar should have been the Bushwhackers, Luke and Butch on either side of him. Where were you, brother, when I was making this graphic in my car yesterday?
Shout out Lazy Bed. Lazy Bed's all over
Your
the
car?
gaff.
It's your house as well?
Let me ask you this, man. A couple of more interesting tidbits from Topuria. He said that number one, Paddy Pimblett, he likes the idea of that fight. He wants to do it in a stadium over there in Madrid. Oscar, do you think, I don't know, like, is that even a possibility, you think, him versus Topuria? Or do you think the UFC plays their cards smart here with 2 draws? Do you put 2 of them together straight away and sort of lose one?
I think at the moment, the UFC's been operating on a strategy of just get a fight done and just get it out there, right? And they don't really leave things to cook over a long period because they're doing quantity events over maybe necessarily quality. So you would want to build up to that fight, right? You wouldn't necessarily want to put these 2 guys who could be massive stars for you together and eliminate one right away. But with the strategy they've been employing recently, if they could get that done, I'm sure they would. For me, I think 1 more each. And then if they both won and then it was for a belt, that actually would be a mammoth fight, but I don't think it's that big right now. I think it's like 1 away from being as big as we're discussing it to be. As far as a stadium in Spain, they could absolutely do that. I'm sure Liverpool would fly over for it. And that's one thing they've been missing, right? People traveling for their guy. That could be pretty cool if you had the English and the Spanish and that sort of environment. It would be an electric atmosphere, but yeah, I don't know if it's ready yet.
I gotta figure this out, man. Topuria, he's in this weird situation. Charles Oliveira doesn't want to fight him. No one, Armin kind of wants to fight him, but we don't really want to see that Armin fight, do we? Do we want to see that fight? I don't know. Like, Rick, what are you doing with Topuria?
So if Islam does not end up fighting for the 170-pound title, you do Islam versus Ilia. You just do it. It's number 1 and number 2 pound for pound. It's 2 of the biggest names that you've got, and
Can you force it? Can you force it? Can Islam just say no? Wouldn't they've made it happen?
Islam's not going to say no. Islam and Habib do a lot of the like, this guy has to earn it, this guy hasn't done it yet, blah blah blah. But when push comes to shove, when the money is on the line and when the contract's put in front of them, they will fight anybody, and Islam will fight anybody. In fact, I go so far as to say, if they put a contract in front of him to fight Bilal, I think eventually he would probably fight Bilal if that's blocking his path to a 170-pound title. So I don't think Islam's denying anybody. I just think if you're Islam, how many times do you give the featherweight a chance? How many times do you do that before you get your own shot? And so, as I said, like I don't think the Bilal obstacle is going to be a thing for very long. Maybe he gives it this one and then he gets past Jack and then he goes, nah, you know what? I'm just going to fight Bilal. But I don't think Islam's going to turn it down. I think he'll take the shot, and quite frankly, I think he'd make it look relatively easy.
King Terzi having an aneurysm in the comment section. Islam doesn't get an immediate title shot at 170 without winning at least 1 fight then. I'm sorry, but the entire Khabib team has come out against Topuria. I feel you, King. I feel you. Let me ask you this, though. What about Dana White, Oscar, in the press conference? He was kind of like, Paddy Pimblett, he's a contender now, right? And then I saw Javier Mendez. He was doing a podcast talking about that, like, hey, him and Islam, hey, that's a fight that's exciting. That's a cool fight right there. Is there any scenario here where the UFC can somehow sneak Paddy Pimblett to the front of the line and just make this Islam fight happen next, do you think, Oscar? In your opinion, is there a path there?
If the timing had been different, yes. But Gaethje just won and Charles has won, and those 2 are there without a fight. So it's a little bit of a harder sell to skip over those 2. I get the impression that Islam and his team, even his management team, are pushing for the Gaethje fight. I think that's kind of a new opponent. He said he's wanted to fight Gaethje before. I suspect that's the one they would like. Charles seems to have sort of been left out in the lurch, which is where the Ilia Charles fight sort of comes from. It's all a bit weird timing, but no, I don't think Paddy could skip over those guys. I actually asked Dana, I said, is the next one a big one? And then he shut me down and told me this was a big one and I should watch my dirty little reporter mouth. So that kind of put me in my place. But yeah, I suspect that he needs 1 more. Dana maybe disagreed with me. He was very grumpy that day.
Oscar, who is the young woman in that photograph behind you?
Here we go. Hold on. Let's have a look.
This is Michelle Ryan. She was a
Who is
TV
that?
actress. Well, you probably don't know this, Eric. I was actually in a movie once. Yeah, I had a few lines in a movie called 4321. I believe the subtitle was 4 Girls, 3 Days, 2 Cities, 1 Chance. And Michelle was in there. And
Sounds like the plot of many movies I've seen before, by the way.
Indeed. Yeah. My victim. But so we had a stunt together, and I was meant to go left and she was meant to punch right, but she hit me and gave me a nosebleed. So in a completely non-egotistical way, she sent me a picture of herself and said, "Sorry for your nose."
Incredible. What a backstory.
I keep it lovingly. I take it in every room I go into. It's never actually out of my hand. So I sleep with it, then I bring it here for recording, so, but yes, that's Michelle Ryan.
Shout out to Michelle.
No longer works.
No longer works. We got to have a look at this movie just real quick for everybody at home right here.
Yeah, please.
Let's have a look at the poster for this bad boy. 4, 3, 2, 1. And when you think of Oscar Willis in a movie, you wouldn't think the poster would look something like this.
No, that's not it.
What did you do?
That's not it, but that does
Monday morning after a UFC fight weekend, after Oscar Willis has been to town.
Okay, well, it was a gritty British crime drama about.
It looks very intense.
Yeah, it was great.
Nah. Dude, I gotta ask, just on the side, Oscar, would you do any more acting? Because I saw a little bit from it. I think you showed me once. You did really well, man. Do any more acting?
Listen, of course, everyone saw my pre-fight skits and how amazing those were and convincing.
Yeah, those are great, man. I
would do acting for sure, but obviously, I'm still conquering the MMA media game. So until then, once I get Journalist of the Year, then I'll transition to acting. So another 20 odd years to go.
Yeah, it's I mean, maybe I'll start my own awards and then I'll give you guys Journalists of the Year. How about that?
Thanks, mate.
I want to get you back into the acting game. Hey, let's just quickly figure this out as well. On the side, I spoke to Benil Dariush this week. He says Dan Hooker is a great fight for Paddy Pimblett. I saw Dustin Poirier told Mike Bonn, I think Dan Hooker could be a great fight for Paddy Pimblett. I kind of thought it over. I'm like, hey, Dan Hooker, it's a good fight. I feel like it's a good fight for Dan Hooker because it's a big fan-friendly fight. He beats Paddy Pimblett. He's on this win streak. I think he could get him to where he wants to go. And for Paddy Pimblett, it's like a fun fight too. Are these guys getting it right? Oscar, you do a show with Dan. Obviously, we love the man. Pub talk. Do you think that this could be a good fight for Paddy Pimblett next?
I'm going to obviously say this completely unbiasedly. That would not be the fight I would want to see next because I felt like there was a period where Dan was getting matched up with guys beneath him in what I felt was a clear way of the UFC trying to sort of parlay his name into new guys. Dan fought through that period. He beat Gamrot fair and square. And so therefore I feel he's now owed one up rather than one down. So I would still like to see him get one of the, there's like 4 big names at lightweight, right? There's the champion, Dustin, Charles, Justin. Those are the 4 biggest names. And I feel like Dan deserves one of those rather than a guy who also deserves one of those. I think if you put Paddy and Dan together, they're kind of equal right now. Those 4 guys above them are still always going to be considered in the fans' eyes as above them. You need to beat one of those guys to get past them, I think. So I think Dan and Paddy is kind of a stalemate. I'd rather see both of them get matched up against Justin and Charles, and then you move on from there.
Yeah, that would be cool. But I'd love to see it. But Rick, if that doesn't happen, what do you think?
I just think we have to acknowledge that not everybody is going to get what they want in this scenario. We're all trying to make this perfect, harmonious thing where everybody gets who they want in this lightweight picture, and it's just not going to happen. Somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody's not going to be able to fight on X date. Somebody's going to get rushed into a title shot. There's not going to be this easy shakeout where we're like, this guy fights this guy and this guy fights this guy. It has never been that way in the UFC, and in recent times, it's been less and less so. It's just been next person available. So this idea of matching everybody and it's this perfect formulation is just not going to happen. Mark my words. It's just impossible. But I think that Paddy's probably got a pretty good position now based on that win over Michael Chandler and seemingly the momentum behind him. When you compare it to somebody like Arman, who I think we can all agree is above him rankings wise and is probably the better fighter. but just lost that momentum when he pulled out of that title fight and is in no good favor with the UFC. If you're looking around your options and you're Dana White and you're Hunter Campbell, you'd probably push Paddy first, and so that's an unfortunate position. But ultimately, somebody's going to have to take a tough fight. Somebody's going to have to fight down. There's going to be somebody just taking an opportunity and rising up. So we'll see how this all shakes out. The matchups I want to see, the ones that I really want, I want to see Topuria versus Islam. I want to see Charles versus Paddy. And I want to see Justin versus Armin. That feels like the best combination.
Justin
What are you doing
versus
to Dan,
Armin.
then?
Yeah. What are we doing with Dan?
Hooker versus Fiziev?
No.
Hooker versus...
Look down here. There's a guy that kind of looks like MMA Guru, but I don't think it's MMA Guru. And he's saying Hooker versus Ahmed. If it is MMA Guru, it's. What do you guys think of that?
What do you do with Justin then?
Justin.
I told you, if Bilal gets out of the way, this is all resolved. But anyway, if
Hooker versus Ahmed, that's a hot little fight though. Both guys dislike each other. Ahmed's up the top. What do you guys think?
I'd like that. I mean, it's not very hard to read Dan. When he got injured, he clearly decided I'd like to fight Armin because he went on that mad social media terrorizing thing. So I would enjoy watching Dan accuse Armin of being a creep towards Nina Drama, even though it might not be true. But yeah, I like that fight. That's a good fight. But I just think, yeah, it's true. Like Eric said, it's all a bit weird. And I feel like one person is going to lose out. Do you know what I mean? Like there's going to be one person left.
Why don't we just rebook Hooker versus Justin? I reckon Justin wouldn't. Rick, you reckon Justin wouldn't be keen on that one?
Probably not. I mean, just based on the fact that he was calling for a title shot after the last one, but he might have to. That's the thing. As I said, somebody or maybe multiple people are going to have to take fights that they don't feel like they deserve. Everybody feels like they deserve the title shot. Ilia's coming into the mix from a different division and feeling like he deserves it. This is going to get messy, and somebody's just going to have to. Charles Oliveira has been sitting waiting for a title shot forever. He might not get that, and so it's gonna get messy. Maybe Hooker slides in. That'd be great. I like Hooker versus Armin. I think that's a fantastic fight. I just feel like now you've got Justin Gaethje in kind of a no man's land. The key to all of this is please do not fuck up Max versus Dustin. Please don't fuck up Dustin versus Max. I mean, whatever you do not fuck this up.
In there, I think, mate.
I was gonna fuck it up because I was gonna suggest Hooker versus Porier too.
No.
Hold on a sec there, Rick. Hold on a sec. I saw an MMA Junkie, some of the boys over there. Shout out to the fellas and the girls over at MMA Junkie. They were saying, I've got this big conspiracy theory. Max Holloway, maybe he does stick around at featherweight. There are things happening over there now. We got fights over there now. We got movement over there now. And he could potentially build to a fourth Volkanovski fight if he beats a couple of these big new names in the division. What if the UFC are like, hey, what's that over there in the corner? Covering itself up like that. Let's see what's under that blanket. Why? It's Hooker versus Poirier too. Isn't that a nice little treat? What do you think of that, Rick?
No, absolutely not. Max versus Hooker versus Poirier is an all-time fight made better by the fact that it was in the Apex and everybody hearing the violence that was there. Max versus Dustin 2 is a better fight. Period. It's one of the best fights of all time, and it needs to be run back for a third time. And it's just the perfect spot in both their careers where there's no stakes. There's no like, hey, is this going to push me toward a title?
Belt, please, Eric.
Sorry, the BMF belt.
Yeah, God damn it, Eric.
It's the perfect opportunity to do it. It makes a lot of sense for Poirier, right? You can feel confident in maybe your retirement, maybe your second to last fight against the guy who you've beaten in that second matchup. And for Max, it's an opportunity to get back on track against a big name. It's going to sell tickets down in Louisiana. It's the right time.
Okay. Just quickly on that as well.
How'd you know it's in Louisiana, Eric?
Yeah. I mean, it just feels like it's there, you know?
Well,
what about Topuria, though, saying to Joe Rogan, hey, I'm just going to sit out and wait for this Islam fight? Does this mean that this man's just going to just sit out potentially for ages, Oscar? Like, do the old sit-in? What is going on there?
One thing that's very interesting about Ilia Topuria's fight weeks are that he brings his family, and there's a lot of them. There's about 20 of them, and they are all dressed exceptionally well. Some of them smell very good too, but I get the sense he doesn't really need the money, you know? So I think he's also, and I mean this in not a diss, like a kind of a genuine way, he's pretty entitled, you know, in that sort of like, no, I want to wait and fight this guy. No, I want to fight that guy. And he usually gets what he wants, what he feels is best for him. I believe him that he would sit out. I mean, he sat out for a while for Max, right? I think if I'm remembering that right, but I think he would happily sit out until he got his shot. And I think because they need fights, they need big fights, and they need names, and he's one of the younger names they have, they would eventually give him what he wanted. Even if Islam beat Gaethje, I reckon Ilia would still get a fight after that.
It's just a weird time to be in 155. What about 145, fellas? After Volko won, by the way, what a win from Volko. Still buzzing after that one. Was able to come back. You got Oscar, you were there, cage side. You got to witness it. And now we're talking about who's potentially next. And of course, the big dog got home to Sydney to a nice ovation from some fans. Media was asking him some questions. He was saying potentially 2 more fights, 1 defense in Sydney. But now we've got to figure out who will be those next challenges, right, fellas? And I was actually shocked when I saw so many people say John Silver would be the next contender here. It didn't even cross my mind until I was interviewing Aaron Pico, and he said he thinks John Silver is the fight to make. Are we like, what do you guys feel about that? Like, are we just off here, and is this just like fans getting on this John Silver train more than we thought? Is there a case for him to potentially
Pico said John Silva was the fight for Volk or the fight for him?
Fight for Volk for the title.
Fight for Volk.
And ever since he said that, I went online, and yeah, there were people saying they want to see John Silva just basically skip the queue and get this title shot next. A bit of a shocker. What do you think, Rick? Is there even a possibility in hell that would happen?
The possibility of that is if the date that the UFC selects for that fight to happen, or that Volkanovski selects for that fight to happen, Mobstar is not available. That's the only way that happens. If Mobstar can't make it to that date, I could see them going down the line and just going, who can we throw in here? And John Silva seems like as good as option as any at that point. It kind of has the like Khalil Roundtree, we're just going to throw an exciting guy into a title fight because we don't want to give it to, at that time, Magomed Ankalaev. In this case, it would be Movsar Evloev. But Movsar has done enough, and that's probably going to be the fight. And I would expect that that's the one that gets done. But if he can't make it to fight night, you could do worse than John Silva. I don't think that's a bad option.
It's interesting, though, Oscar, right? Because we've got some hot little potatoes in the 145 division, Lopez, Yair. We're thinking that those guys are going to match up against each other in Mexico, right? But like we don't really want to see Yair rematch Volk, do we? And if Lopez wins, it's too soon to put him up against Volk. So is there a play here from the UFC to play the smart two guys that sort of rep in Mexico? Can you split them apart potentially and give a John Silva one of those guys, and maybe even an Aaron Pico one of those guys, or somebody else in the division one of those guys? Or do you think that Yair Lopez has to happen in Guadalajara? Guadalajara.
On the Duolingo. I suspect, listen, you know, beef sells, right? And you can't have that press conference moment, then have a perfect date and venue to book those guys against each other and not do it, right? So while I think Yair versus John Silva is a fantastic fight, this is a narrative-driven sport, and they're going to go with the fight that has the narrative. You know, Jair's like making this big sort of, oh, well, when the time's right, we'll talk about it. There's talks of 10-on-1. There's talks of a woman being threatened. This is all captivating stuff, you know? So that's the fight. It makes so much sense. Obviously in Mexico, and then you've got obviously is he Mexican? Is he Brazilian? Can you be both? Like that whole narrative as well. I think that's a really fiery, fun, stylistic fight. So you have to book that. I think for John Silva, it's way too early for a title shot, although he is very exciting and one of the coolest people to watch come up the rankings. You know, he could get shoehorned in a title shot perhaps before his time. I just don't think that time is right now. If Bryce had won, I don't suspect he'd have got a title shot. But there you go.
Eric, looking up things in his feed. Are we not entertaining enough for you, Eric?
I was listening the whole time.
He's just brushing the needles away.
Let me throw something out.
Give it to us.
WrestleMania weekend, right? It's got me thinking, and inspired also by the booking of Kaya Sakura against Alexandre Pantoja. Why don't you just throw Aaron Pico in there? Fuck it. YOLO. Just roll that shit out. Let's do it. Aaron Pico versus Alexander Volkanovski. If he wins that fight on his debut, he's a star like no other. And you just run the playbook you were going to try and do for Kaya Sakura. Obviously, he doesn't have the backing of Japan in the way that they were probably trying to capitalize on that. But like, I just feel like nobody really wants to see Movsar fight for it. Clearly, right? It has the Magomed Ankalaev vibes. Just throw Aaron Pico in there. Fuck it. Let's do it.
I actually like it, and I know like people are saying, "Well, it's unfair to Mosar." I find it interesting with Mosar
It is, by the way. That's accurate.
Yeah, it is unfair, but I will say, like, I find it interesting. Like, so they were supposed to fight Pico and Mosar, then Mosar decided to pull out of this thing. I saw you did an interview with Mike Bonnet. He put out a few tweets, but if you're Mosar, are you kicking up more of a fuss here to try and get this title fight, man? I'd be cage side. I'd be, running down the street.
They ain't giving him a ticket.
You buy your own ticket. You sneak through.
You can't put a camera on the rafters, bro.
But you know what I mean? Is he doing enough to sell himself here? We've seen guys go far and beyond securing these title shots. He's kind of staying a little bit quiet here. I wanted to have a chat with him on the show. He's not really doing much media. He's a guy that can speak English. Like, why isn't he pushing this narrative of saying, F that, this is bullshit, I should get this, all these guys suck eggs. Eric, and it's almost WrestleMania. Why isn't he dropping the little leg brother on a few of these fools?
How have you been responding to the new wave of big Ankh tweets? Have you been enjoying those?
Yeah, seriously.
Because that's what it would feel like. Like, you can't force it. The performances in the cage have people not wanting to see that, and you can't force it. The only exception is if he goes full Colby Covington. If he just starts like healing off on everybody and just makes all the enemies in the world, and he's showing up and getting in their faces and confronting Paddy Pimblett about fighting 2 and 6 guys when Colby hasn't won a fight in God knows how long. If you do that, maybe you can kind of force it. But I just don't think Movsar has that in him. It's going to feel like the big Ankh tweets. It's going to fall flat. It's going to feel like somebody took over his account. And I don't think there's anything he can do. The resume is the resume. He submitted in the cage is what he submitted.
But Big Ankh had a good shot against Alex Pereira. He was kind of like, hey, this is the boogeyman in the division for Alex Pereira. We want to see what this fight looks like. Mosar is not the boogeyman for Alex Volkanovski. Like, I spoke to Joe Lopez about it, and he said, look, the guy deserves the shot, but basically he hangs on to guys. No one's hanging on to Volk. What Mosar is good at, Volk can avoid and then basically capitalize on afterwards. Like, Oscar, is there a scenario in your mind where Mosar beats the version of Alex Volkanovski you saw in Miami?
I'm picking the fight already.
Give me the early feels. We won't hold you to it.
Again, MMA math is what it is. But if Islam couldn't take him down and hold him down, you'd struggle to see how a smaller version would. As going back to Movsar like calling for the fight, one, I agree with Eric. It would seem too forced. And then secondly, I think there's something about those Eastern European guys that they kind of have this instilled cultural belief that somehow meritocracy will win the day. And like, well, if I keep winning, they will eventually give me the fight. Even though, if they haven't yet, you kind of assume the UFC are going to have to learn the lesson that some of these guys are just never, ever going to be entertaining to fans and actually bad for business, right? That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So I suspect they've tried. I mean, didn't Dana say Movsar, was it Arnold Allen was like the worst fight he'd ever seen, and it was a completely fine fight?
It was fine.
Yeah, it was actually not that bad. So I think you get the vibe. The one thing I will say is I do wonder if the UFC think, damn, Movsar could beat everyone in this division but Alex. So if we give him Alex and Alex beats him, that gets rid of that problem for us. The only risk is then what happens if he wins? Then like suddenly you have this unsellable champion. So I wonder if they'll make that risk. But maybe their version, because obviously they gave him Aljo because they thought Aljo might be able to wrestle him and beat him, right? So maybe they think like this is our chance to get rid of this guy. But is it a risk that they're willing to take? I don't know. But I suspect. And also for Alex, right? He's won. He took shots in that fight. I think the questions about his chin being glass are gone, but I think all of his fans still have that concern when he gets clipped, right? He got dropped. If it's Alex and you're still regaining that confidence over time, what a fight. Because even if you lost, you're not going to get hurt. You know what I mean? So it's a very good fight for him to keep building these wins back and getting that momentum even more. It's just if the UFC are willing to take the risk that the champion doesn't beat the challenger.
And can you sell that on pay-per-view though? That's the problem. That smells of co-headliner as opposed to headliner.
Yeah.
There's just some guys
unless you do it in Australia, right, Rick? Like if you put Alex Volkanovski on Australia, like one of the last pay-per-view,
the rest of that card better be damn good. Because if you're
no,
buying
Volk's selling out. Volk's selling it. But that's what I would like to see Volk defend once this year because he's apparently psychotic about this year, and then they do Sydney in February as always. Have him defend the belt there. That would beat Jose Aldo's record for most featherweight title defenses. Then just walk away. Obviously he's not going to do that, but that would be get your defense in Sydney, have the walkout sung properly, get it all done, and then walk away. But yeah,
wait,
I think
how many did you think he is away?
He's 2, isn't he? I think he's 1 away from equaling Aldo, and then he's 1 away from beating him.
He's got 5. Aldo's got 9.
No, disagree. Mike Bond told me something else.
Yeah,
I may have misremembered this. I thought it was 14 and 15. But I do forget things.
Rick's checking receipts. Are you coming to us from the perspective that you still think Jose Aldo is the featherweight GOAT, Rick?
I do.
Silly little
show
man.
Your age a lot here,
I do.
What is the argument? Please tell me. What is the argument? I love Aldo.
I did this on Boys in the Back on Tuesday. We're typically
I know it was great.
Yeah,
it was great. You got good ratings, and I want those ratings. Tell me.
Here's the argument.
Okay.
The dominance of the streak, the dominance of those 9 title defenses, and the 9 fights before that, because he had 18 in a row, 18 wins in a row, is not eclipsable in the argument for me. Now, if Volk starts to approach those 9 title defenses, I'm really going to have a tough time, especially with what he did in winning back the belt at the advanced age that he did. It's an impressive feat. I bow to him. I still think Jose Aldo has the best resume. I still think Jose Aldo did the best at featherweight. But what I would counter with, what I would grant you, is I think Volkanovski is the best fighter who ever fought at featherweight. I would put him up against any champion, anybody who's ever competed in that division. I believe he is the best who ever came through that division. But I don't think that he has yet eclipsed that resume that Aldo was able to submit during the 18-fight win streak into the 9 title defenses. But he can get close. He's as close as you'll get. And with a few more, I think he gets there.
Don't you give me this take and then give me but I think he's the greatest fighter in the division.
No, the best.
You stand by your ground.
Not the greatest.
You stand by your ground. I sent you a t-shirt once. And you never wore it. But this was when...
No, not true. I showed you a picture.
Yeah, but you were supposed to wear it on something substantial.
You know what? I should have worn it for this.
His face on it, and I said he was going to...
Could you still fit in it?
No, it's quite small. I should have worn it for this.
Let me ask you this though. I don't know, man. For me, it's Alex Volkanovski. Just okay. Rick, if you go, let me ask you this, and I'm trying to be as PC as possible. But if you go to the bar and you pick up a bunch of threes and you pick up 20 threes, let's say at a bar, or if you go to a bar and you pick up,
very disrespectful.
No, 10
eights.
10 eights, and I'm not talking about women. I'm talking about people's personalities here. Okay. What has the more value?
Are you implying that Jose Aldo's wins are all threes? Because I would vehemently disagree.
I'm not saying that they're all threes, but I am saying when you look through his record and you look at people, and I love Mark Hominick, Manny Gambarian,
so
guys like Ricardo Lamas.
Put a few similar ones up. His Korean Zombie win, definitively better than Volkanovski's because of the advanced age and the point in his career that Korean Zombie was. Chad Mendes beat a significantly better version of Chad Mendes than Volkanovski did. You start to unpack it, Uriah Faber, Mike Brown, the guys who were really the best of the best of the best at that time. It's a little bit of what have you done for me lately?
Look what Volk did to Max in that third fight. That's the better win than any win Aldo ever got. And I love Aldo, but his performance.
If we're doing the best win, then Ilia Topuria is the GOAT because he just iced Volkanovski and Max back to back, or Conor McGregor icing Aldo in 13 seconds.
That I agree with.
I think Conor McGregor has to be in the discussion, actually, but he just hasn't had the longevity.
12.
But what about the fact that Alex Volkanovski beat Jose Aldo? Come on, Rick.
Head-to-head wins don't do it for me. It matters, but it's not the only thing. I'll give you an example.
Okay,
I still think Chris Cyborg is the best women's fighter, and I'll tell you why.
Okay,
because
here
of
we
the
go.
dominance, because of the longevity. The head-to-head loss to Amanda Nunes is significant, and you have to rate it. And I think Amanda Nunes is right there and has done a lot to do it. But then do you go back to Amanda Nunes' losses and go, well, Sarah D'Alio is actually the GOAT because she beat Amanda Nunes. Chris Cyborg didn't get a chance to avenge that. Amanda Nunes loses to Juliana Pena, but then gets the chance to avenge it. If she doesn't get another chance against Juliana Pena, are we all going she's unanimously the GOAT? No, because she would have just lost to Pena. So head-to-head wins matter. It's significant, but I don't think it makes the legacy. I don't think it makes the resume. I think decades of dominance, like Jose Aldo, like Chris Cyborg have submitted, to me, are more a measure of greatness. They are more a measure of what you were able to do in the prime of your career and a measure of greatness. I do think head-to-head wins matter, though, but then is Ilia Topuria the GOAT? Right? He iced Volk and he iced Max. Like, what more do you need to do? And if there's no doubt in my mind, if he stepped in there with Jose Aldo today, he's icing him too. So, and Conor McGregor probably. So, I don't think head-to-head wins are the be-all, end-all. 3 wins over Max though is impressive as hell. And I can't say enough that I think Alexander Volkanovski is the best featherweight I've ever seen fight. He is the best featherweight I've ever seen fight. He just doesn't have the best resume for me. But 2 more title defenses, and I think I have to really probably relent from the position.
All right. By the way, I love how you got the one division me and Oscar would probably know least about to build your argument. We're like, Cyborg versus, I don't know. You're like, I know how to get these guys. I haven't watched the legacy of every women's fight. By the way, Blood and Bear loving your tick. Lock Dog 23, New York Rick is the GOAT. Listen, man, you're a sweet man. I think you're wrong, and you've been driving too long around New York. But I think the Volk is there. Let me ask you this though, Oscar. Let's say Volk does beat Mo Salah next. Do you believe that we see a Topuria rematch like what Volk wants to do down the line? Do we think we see a Topuria rematch before Volk hangs it up?
No, I don't. I think Ilia is pretty committed to this move at 155. And while I don't necessarily think, well, I think Islam is a tough ask for him. I do think he will have success in that division. I certainly don't see him he doesn't strike me as the sort of character who'd go to 55, lose a couple of times, and then kind of just like, oh, well, I couldn't make it. I'll go back to featherweight. He doesn't strike me as that kind of guy. And for Volk, you got to wonder how many fights he has left. I don't really see him going up to lightweight either. I think he really wants to do another dominant run at featherweight. Now, if he runs out of contenders, which actually now I'm thinking about it, pretty much will. Maybe he will, but in my mind, I just don't think. If Volk looks really impressive in like his next couple, then maybe. But I think the loss to Ilia and the definitive knockout stays in people's minds a bit too much for that rematch to be bookable right now. So
If you are Ilia though, let's say you go up and let's say your first fight is Islam and you drop that. Maybe your next fight is like a Charles, is like a Justin, and you drop that? I don't know, man. I think 45 starts to look more appealing all of a sudden. I think that weight cut that was once hard is now motivating and pushing you potentially back down. It would have to go wrong at 55. It would have to go really wrong at 55. But I think if he's fighting Islam on fight 1, it's already down the wrong path because I don't think he has a shot in that fight. And so you're looking at potentially going 0-2 if you lose the next one. I don't know. Volk holding the strap feels like an appealing option for me if I'm Ilia. But again, this is cart before the horse. It would have to go drastically wrong at 55.
I think Ilya's driven by, perception, right? Not really money, but perception. If he goes on this losing streak, I think he wants to at least go out with some kind of title of notoriety. And I know his coach has told me that, featherweight, they can't really make the weight, but that's got to be a load of shit, right? Because the guy's like smaller than half of the featherweight division already. And you're like, dude, don't tell me that crap. Like, don't talk to me about the
I bet the cut is hard. But it's hard because he's Ilia Topuria and hanging out with Sergio Ramos and going on TV and doing a press
drinking red wine
week.
During the cut.
And drinking red wine. If you lost 2 in a row at lightweight, I guarantee that cut gets a little bit easier because it's the only thing.
Because no one wants to hang out with you. Is that what you're saying? Because no one wants to hang out with you.
The team leaves.
MAGA hat.
Jaden Lewinsky. It is not a MAGA hat. Is a fun sports hat. I love that hat, by the way, man. There's a few comments in the section about that. And Rick, I know you said you don't want people effing up your Dustin Poirier Max Holloway fight. What about Hooker versus Holloway, huh?
I like that.
Down to it.
I like that fight better than Dustin versus Hooker, just because I've already seen that one. I would love to see Holloway versus Hooker, but I still want Dustin versus Max first, but I don't mind that fight. I think that would be a goddamn scrap. Oscar, Hooker versus Holloway.
I can't tell you who, but someone told me they thought that fight would be easy. So, I mean, listen, we'll see. Might disagree with that assessment, but yeah, I think that's one you have to see down the line. I think I honestly, I don't know where Dan's head's at with the BMF belt at the moment, because after his injury, he did sort of suggest that he wants to go for the real gold and stuff. But I think Max, Dan for BMF, who doesn't want to see it? Do you know what I mean? That's a fucking banger. So yeah, I'd love to see that fight.
In the meantime, Dan Hooker going to Thailand to do Russian Tough. So
yeah, do you know what's funny? I emailed him. I was like, DM'd him. I was like, let's do an interview. And he went, yeah, sure, whatever. And then couldn't get a hold of him. And then he just sent me a picture of him drinking a beer by the cage. And I was like, this is why.
Is it actually Russian Tough, or is it like an offshoot? Or are you saying like the UFC has?
No. It's an offshoot. They do these crazy Ultimate Fighters, but they're way better than the Ultimate Fighter.
I think Dan not doing this like one night tournament where they've got like 30 fights or 32 fights, and each fight is a minute long, and you just
I think he's doing that too, and he's trying to get.
So he's actually a coach on some weird tough thing.
Yeah, he said he's going to Thailand to do some tough thing. I don't know, man. He was on his way to Minecraft with his family when I was interviewing him. Watch that one if you guys get a moment for some fun. Hey, what about this update on Chimaev, guys? I don't know. We don't really have any inside info, but are we just from the perspective of, what we're feeling right now? Do we feel like that this fight's going to get locked in with DDP? Like, for me, this seems like a good little cherry on top of International Fight Week if they can't get like an Islam on there, or they're trying to get a big fight. Is the UFC trying to figure out where to place this, or are they still having issues figuring out visas and all sorts of things with Khamzat? What do you reckon, Oscar?
Well, dude, they had the entire fucking US cabinet by the cage last week. I'm sure he could have asked them. I do have some inside info. Listen, I think Dana was asked if it was IFW, and he said that was a good idea. I think that was the plan. I think that's the fight. Don't know about the date, but
right.
Damn. As long as that's the fight, though, because
it's the fight.
To me, I think that's one of the biggest fights they can make, potentially bigger than Islam and Ilia, if I'm being honest. I just think DDP has become quietly like one of the best promoters, trash talkers, fight sellers
on social media, just destroying like people, what they look like, and just like the whole thing, like running roasts
social
on people.
In the press conferences, he's dropping bars on everybody. He's destroying everybody. He's making Sean Strickland shut up, which I didn't think was possible. The dude's become like the best, and then Khamzat as a polar opposite, where he's probably just going to get aggravated and mad.
How many times does Khamzat stand up at the press conference and try and get at
Hopefully a lot. Yeah. Hopefully a lot.
As DDP brings up some really obscure, like, refugee status that he had when he was 9 years old or something like that.
And his difficult times during COVID, I'm sure.
You left your father to go and get sick with a cold? You must be outrageous. In
DDP
South Africa, a lion eats.
It's pretty good. DDP versus Khamzat is the fight for me. I think it's behind Tom and John. It's the one that I think could be potentially their biggest. So if that was it, I'd love it. But it sounds like Oscar thinks it might happen a little later.
The Tom and John fight?
No, Khamzat and DDP.
Khamzat and DDP. That would be a spicy little nugget for International Fight Week. If that is the main event, fellas, what else do we want to see on that International Fight Week card, do we think? To keep things going.
If it had a headliner like that, I don't think you need much. You just put you do like the equivalent of what Hooker and Gaethje was supposed to be, right? You just put on like two guys who are going to throw down and go to battle. I don't think you need to build it out too much. Hell, maybe you bring Paddy Pimblett back. I don't know. Paddy versus somebody could be a great co-headliner. Paddy versus Charles is still the one I want. Paddy versus Charles feels like it could fit right there and be fantastic. Absence of that, I think you need title fights ASAP. I don't know what you do. If you don't get Khamzat and DDP and you don't get Islam versus Ilia, you really need a title fight desperately. And I don't know how many are available at this moment.
Well, can you check Volko on there, or is that too soon?
I would go the opposite way. I think at the moment, MMA is I think Ali Abdelaziz said it's in a recession. You know, it's
Yeah,
like
he said that. Hang on to your contracts, he said, which is true, man. It is in a recession at the moment.
and everyone sees it, right? The views are down, everything's down.
Yeah, heaps.
Ali Abdelaziz says there's no other options out there. How could this be as he has everybody in the UFC? How could this have happened? How could this have happened with every fighter in the roster on the UFC?
Oh no, give me my money. So I would do the opposite of what Eric said, where he just wants to make people pay for a one fight. I would rather stack IFW as like a statement of like, no, this sport still has excitement. If you have Khamzat DDP on there, I'd love to see Volko co-main. Right. I think it's a bit too close to like April, May, June. It's at the end of June this year. I think that's a bit too close, but I'd love a good title fight. I believe the flyweights are probably going to be on that just because we haven't heard anything about them being booked for a while. So therefore, logically, you look down the calendar and you go, next available space, they're going to have to get booked on that. But man, fucking used to be you'd get 3 title fights on a card once a year.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have that back. Do you know what I mean?
It's also a good spot to hide Mavsar, right? Like, because obviously he's not the pay-per-view draw. You get him in the co-main, it kind of makes sense. I don't mind that.
But then is his like contagious to Khamzat? Like if people see Khamzat,
hell no.
Are they like But yeah, so I'd love to see IFW stacked this year. And even if we can't get 3,
is it too late though?
I don't think so.
What?
And
is it too late to stack the deck? Like, what are the options at this point?
I think there's some sexy options. Yeah,
you could pay the 2 you need to pay. That's a great point. Although that feels too late. That's got to be later in the year. Tom and John.
Yeah, they're saying like November, Madison Square Garden or whatever. But I was gonna say, what about what we saw from Miami? It was good to have a bunch of featherweights on one card, right? So why not have a bunch of middleweights on one card too? Build out the narratives. And one of the guys that I think would be perfect for International Fight Weekend, I don't really know. He's over there right now doing some WrestleMania videos for his channel. But Izzy, what's that?
Yeah, great shout. Izzy, like in a 3-rounder on IFW would be sick.
It also feels like it wouldn't be like a disrespect, right? Like Izzy and DDP have squashed the beef, right? There might have been a time where you go Izzy co-maining to DDP probably feels like an affront. Whereas now it'd be like, yeah, Izzy's in a co-main and it'd be great. I'm down. I don't hate that.
The thing is, though, for them, Izzy's just such a bankable star that never burn him on that. He's headlining a fight night somewhere that's paid money. You know,
you just wanted to burn Volk on it.
For a title fight, though, not for a 3-rounder.
Yeah, he's and he's got that great contract as well.
Okay, if it's Sean Strickland versus Izzy 5 rounds, that feels like a good co-main.
I love that fight.
I love that fight. That is the fight to make. I don't think Izzy, as much as they have squashed the beef, would co-main to a former rival. And secondly, also, I don't think DDP can help himself. I think if he's at a press conference, he's like, I'll make you cry like I made this guy cry. It's just going to bring it all back again, you know? Imagine if you had Izzy, Sean, and then he made Khamzat cry all on stage at the same time. That would be...
Wow. There's a lot of DDP enemies.
And then all 3 of them kick the fuck out of him or something.
Hey, by the way, someone paying to shout out the big dog, New York Rick. What about that? Long live the king. Long live king. Long live the goat. There you go, man. There you go.
Gout?
It's the gout. It's the gout.
Gout. Is this
and
a
the
problem
goat
for you, Rick? Okay.
No,
look. I don't have gout.
Is that why you're at the
myself,
dentist today?
I don't have gout myself, but I'm with my gout having brothers and sisters. You know, I'm in the struggle with you guys out there.
And that's the only struggle you have an opinion on in the world today, Evan?
You know, that's the only one at the moment.
That's a big one right
gout
now.
sufferers. I can't think of another. at the moment.
Gout for society. Hey, just quickly, Kaya Bahia, before we get... By the way, guys, we're going to talk about some of our favorite WrestleMania moments to finish this out. But Kaya Bahia, what about him? He's been going off on social media. He's been like, this guy won't fight me. This guy won't fight me. I'm going to beat this guy. I'm going to beat that guy. I can't get a fight. What the hell's going on? What do you guys make of the fact that, you know, the big dog from the Fighting Nerds, which I feel like I see him every single weekend on every single fight because those guys are absolutely slaying it. What do you make of him seemingly unable to get a fight? And who do you think would be good for him next?
After what he did to Jared Cannonier, I'm not surprised at all. Why would you want to fight that guy? Like he feels like the future champ to me.
So what do you do with him, Ricky?
Would Strickland fight him? I guess he's got the highest number.
No, we don't want to ruin this Israel fight, though. We don't want to ruin that fight.
If it's not going to happen,
you don't want to ruin your Porier Max Holloway fight. I don't want to ruin my Izzy Strickland fight.
I love it. That's the fight I want. But at the same time, like if you're Kaio, you got to be looking up. The only guys above him that are going to take it is like Whitaker maybe and Strickland. Like
I
I
like
don't
Whitaker
see
though. What do you like the Whitaker fight? I reckon that's something there. No.
he's only one slot above him on the UFC rankings though. Like does that do like it's a big name and I think it would help, but like if I'm Kaio, I want to jump higher. Sean Strickland's in that number 2 spot and just sitting there. I'd push for that. If I don't get it, maybe Whitaker. It seems like Nasruddin Imavov doesn't have any interest in fighting him. And as I said, I wouldn't want to. Hell no. Like I've secured my shot with that fight against Izzy. Kaio is a beast. I do not want to fight him. So it seems like it's like down to Whitaker or Strickland probably.
But Imavov's got to fight one more time, right, Oscar? He can't just be sitting out.
Because what'll happen is he'll wait, and then Kyle will win a fight and skip over him. I've seen it 100 times. So he's silly for not fighting Kyle. Well, I mean, I get it. I get why he wouldn't. It's a really tough fight. And again, both up and comers. You probably think I'll meet this guy down the road, but you got to fight one more time. So maybe you pair them both. I know Izzy and Sean is sacred to you, Dennis. But I think if you could pair either one of them against Rob and Sean respectively, that makes sense to me. You know, old guard, new guard, all on the same card. There you go.
I like that. And what about this Gout making me some money today for Submission Radio? People love to pay for these Gout comments, man. Can we figure this out? Can we monetize this, Rick, 50-50? Or maybe we'll split it all 3 of us. How about that?
This is my payback to you for all the years of support and love. You keep the money today from the Gout.
Thank you. So far, I've made $12.
All 12 are yours.
Wow.
Oscar,
Well, up next.
You're still down that 4K from the strip club. Do you want some? I can split it with you.
It's worse than that, but I don't want to keep getting into it. So Joe Lopez's wife left her glasses at the arena, and Joe Lopez texted me and said, could you get them back to us in Australia?
Mm-hmm.
It was like $100 to send them. I was like, oh, money, bro.
Did you tell him? Or were you I'm going to be a good guy here?
Instead of sending them in a very safe UPS package, I went to the US post office and paid $20 and sent them that way. So if they get there, they won't be in any shape to be used.
Joe Lopez.
Yeah.
Let's transfer this man some money. God damn. No, okay, it's good. Joe Lopez has done well. He deserves his wife's glasses to be sent back to him. Yes. All right, guys, before we wrap up, we got to talk WrestleMania. It's WrestleMania week. I got my WrestleMania 17 t-shirt on today.
It's looking good. It's a great shirt.
Thank you very much, sir. We're going to be breaking down our top 3 moments. Also talking about some shit moments as well from WrestleMania. Look at this. More Gout money coming in, guys.
Dave, you have more money than fucking sense, son.
Old man Dave is putting my kids through college, and kids I don't even know I have.
Dave might have Gout.
Oscar just put some people through college too. It's great. You guys are just on the same wavelength.
Old man Dave, can you meet us at a strip club in Miami next time the UFC's there, please? I'll get your details after this thing finishes. Just quickly before we go into that BKFC return, Oscar, any news? Would you fight again, do you think?
Yeah, listen, there were some talks last year. They didn't go anywhere. And then I was trying to get a boxing match with Misfits, or then they were talking about going to MMA, and I wanted to do that. So we shall see. But at the moment, no. BKFC as well, I'm still not sure, because I kind of got away with that, to be honest. You know, like I didn't take any damage. So that's probably as good as you can get in BKFC. So I kind of don't know if I want to sully that experience by getting fucked up, but...
No, you want to get fucked up. You're a dangerous man. But it's got to be a fun fight, I think. Yeah. I think you're a name. Don't you think it's funny, Rick, how on that BKFC card, you know, they had a lot of great fighters, but I feel like Oscar's fight was kind of like... the fight everyone was talking about. So I'd like to see when you get set up in your next fight, I'd like to see a little bit more promotion.
Oscar's a draw. You know? Oscar's a draw. We know
he is though. He got more views on Submission Radio that week than Kayla Harrison. So come on, guys.
Are you suggesting Oscar versus Kayla?
No, I respect women.
Okay.
I like that. Good answer.
WrestleMania moments, guys. Let's get into it. Top 3 moments. And Oscar Willis was doubting whether he could survive the whole hour. And look at this, 53 minutes in, and we're still in it, huh? Not bad.
Just running out. Number 2.
My wife is hating me at the moment.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, let's talk about. Let's do my top 3 moments, guys. I want to break it down moment by moment. So I'm going to go with my number 3 moment, and then we'll go around, and you guys give your number 3 moment.
Are you talking matches or moments?
You could do moments, or you could do matches.
Okay.
I'm just going to open it up a little bit like New York Rick with his Fugazi, Jose Aldo goat conversation earlier. Where he's like, oh, and guys, I know what he was doing on that phone, Oscar. He was looking up Cyborg in the women's division.
No, I know that by heart,
checkmate on the boys. Doing the old checkmate on the boys. Yeah, Chat GPT. I know you know how to do that, you sick fuck. All right, so top 3 moments. I'm going to start with my number 3 moment, and I'll follow through to you, Oscar, and then you, Rick. And I want to start off with The Rock and Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 18. I think for me, that's a match and a moment with both guys squared up and they looked at each other and the crowd went wild. That was a crazy moment for me. The other thing that was fascinating there as well is I got a little Hulk Hogan toy over here, actually. Little moment there is
you just love his politics, huh?
I love the beach shop, brother. But apart from that, the fact that, he came in as a bad guy into that match. And The Rock went in as a good guy. And then Hulk Hogan, he's such a sneaky little fool that he was able to turn that crowd by the end. And he was the big face there, right? Like he kind of ran a sneaky little operation on the WWE. And the next day had his yellow and red gimmick going, was making as much money as possible. So there was a swerve there and also the match. I actually thought Hogan did pretty well in that match. I rate that match. And I think that was a standout moment. That's my number 3. Oscar?
So my number 3 is going to be last year's WrestleMania main event where it was all the run-ins. It was, and the reason why that's number 3 and not number 1 is because I thought Stone Cold was going to be there.
Yeah.
And so when the gong went off, I actually went, no, because I knew that meant the glass wasn't going to smash. So while it was cool, Taker, basically as soon as Cena came out, I went, it's going to happen. The Rock's going to come. Then Stone Cold. I was so excited. And then when the gong went off, as exciting as that was, it meant it was so close to being the Avengers Endgame moment. And it just wasn't there. Maybe this year. But so for me, that's number 3. It was really awesome. I thought The Rock, The Rock's the man, right? All that build up was perfect. It's what's been missing this year. But it was like we were right there to wrestling. You could have fucking wrapped up the industry after that. But Stone Cold Rock facing off one more time, it would have been perfect. But that is my number 3. I loved it, but I just missed that one thing.
They built it out like that as well. Undertaker was apparently up in a suite, drinking beer, eating food, and they called him up and they're like, we need you down. He had to run all the way down, like half cut, and then run all the way across with like one hip and pop right up. Crazy story right there, but I agree with you. It opens up this weekend, though, which I think Stone Cold's going to appear at. What about you, Ricky? What are we feeling here as your wife looks at you with an angry scowl?
No, she's not around. She's probably stewing. WrestleMania 30 doesn't need much explanation.
Daniel Bryan?
Brock Lesnar, Undertaker.
Oh.
The streak is over. The shocked guy's face in the crowd. Like I
what's up with
remember
that guy's eyes? His eyes were gonna like fly out.
Bugging out of his head. Shout out to sufferers out there. Old man Dave, you're the man.
Old man Dave, put some more money on. We're still going.
Just an incredible moment. They did it. They broke the streak, and Brock Lesnar did it in impressive fashion, and the reactions to it, and the social media buzz. It just felt like it was a monumental kind of thing that crossed over from just wrestling into pop culture, and people were talking about it on the Monday. It was crazy. And I remember being shocked. And I'm just like a WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Royal Rumble kind of guy. Like I just tune in for like the big ones.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, holy shit, they actually did this. I was out of my mind for that one.
That's an interesting one too, because it's almost like, should they have done it? Should they have not? Then he came back and I don't know, all sorts of crazy stuff. But it was kind of cool to see Lesnar break it. My moment number 2, the TLC 2 match from WrestleMania 17. How about this, fellas? I remember that match, watched it when I was young, and I think that kind of really made me want to watch wrestling. Like that match was just incredible. The stuff they were able to do there. You can make the argument with all the bullshit that happens in AEW and like all these hardcore local matches and stuff. Like they just couldn't replicate the story behind using tables and ladders like they did that night at WrestleMania 17 in the Astrodome. I think the fact that the wrestling was the hottest it's ever been, the Astrodome was cooking, best tag team sort of rivalry that they had in a long time, and the way they were able to match that. And of course, that edge spear on Jeff Hardy, dude. And Devon Dudley being afraid of heights, just yelling at people as he was hanging on there. No, don't. I think ultimately they landed it and were able to sort of I feel like that was like the polarizing moment for a lot of fans that weren't really into wrestling, but were like, bro, you got to watch this. This is crazy. So that's my moment number 2. What about you, Oscar?
So mine is also WrestleMania 30. Also not Daniel Bryan. My WrestleMania 30 moment is Rock, Hogan, and Stone Cold in the ring together. First time ever, or not only time ever, but first, like, in a promo. It was just WrestleMania 30, big, like milestone event, and to have those 3 there, Hogan fucking up, Rock and Austin kind of ripping on him a little bit.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm also like Eric. I watch the big ones, and at this stage, while I really do enjoy the new storylines, like especially with CM Punk, Roman, all that stuff, I watch wrestling to be a kid again. And so anytime my nostalgia gets stroked, that really appeals to me, and I really enjoy it. Just last night, I was hammered at 3 a.m. watching The Rock and Stone Cold singing together. I just love that nostalgia stuff. So that moment to see those 3 in the ring together was just a really cool, like, these are the 3 pillars of wrestling together. So I really enjoyed that.
Delta,
what's that
flower you have on? What about you, Ricky?
Great moment. I'm feeling like ours have themes, right? Like Oscars is definitely like reassemble the boys, right? It's like get the gang back together. Mine is, I think, imagery. It's the imagery that's standing out of my head from the Brock and Undertaker one. It's that guy with the eyes bugging out. From my second one, WrestleMania 13, Bret Hart, Stone Cold Steve Austin, the bloody Stone Cold in the sharpshooter. Another, you talked about the double turn in Rock versus Hogan, another double turn match. Incredible storytelling, but just the visual of Stone Cold in the blood and then the passing out. Just best of the best. In fact, that's the one going into the Hall of Fame this year, I believe. We had Bret Hart on the show, and I think that's what that was.
First one ever.
It's the first one in that like match Hall of Fame. So yeah, incredible match. Love that one. The visual of Stone Cold, never shake
almost
it.
Like they gave that to Stone Cold to make sure he was in Las Vegas this year.
Smart.
Hey, what about old man Dave wanting a refund? No refunds here, brother. No refunds here, brother. What do I look like, a Walmart or a Kmart? That money's mine, and I'm gonna spend it on something special. Well, yeah, I think my number 1 moment here is going to be, and I think it's kind of like, again, it's not, it's probably people aren't going to agree with it. And there's a lot of different sort of notable moments we'll quickly mention before we wrap up. But for me, it was the build up and this Stone Cold Rock match. I think for this match, it was just 2 guys super over, super hot. They did that My Way Limp Bizkit build up video, which that's got to be, do you guys reckon that's like combat sports or whatever, like entertainment sports? It's got to be the best build up you could ever make. It still lives on now. And it's like 20 years later. And I think even though afterwards it didn't really pan out the way the WWE were thinking, and it was kind of stupid to see The Rock turn heel and do all of that, the moment when he did it and the thing between him and Vince and all of that, it was just high drama and just absolutely insane at the time. So I got to just give it to those guys. And that's my number 1 moment. What about you, Oscar, as we go into moment number 1?
So for me, mine's a match, and it's The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 25, their first one, because it was, again, the 2 amazing guys, 2 completely different styles that complemented each other so well. And then it was the first example, I think, of like false finish after false finish after false finish, without what it's become today, where they just finish a span. Like I think it was on the Netflix Raw, CM Punk and Seth Rollins wrestled, and Rollins just hit him with like curb stomp after curb stomp, and he just kept kicking out. And after a while, your ability to get over the fact it's fake is ruined, and you start seeing like, okay, this is getting a bit silly. But the way they did it was with storyline and structure that you believed every pin was possibly the one. Best match in wrestling history, in my opinion, and certainly my WrestleMania number 1.
Beautiful. I love that.
What
about you, Rick?
Mine came up already. It's your number 3, Rock versus
Think
Hogan.
of another one. I had 2. That was my number 1 too. I just pretended.
The face off. Yeah. Can't get it out of my head. It was so incredible. And my expectations for that were so low. Like my idea of like Hogan and Rock, like Rock is like the mega athlete right now, prime of his career, hotter than hot. And you got the old guy in there. And Hogan just stepped to the plate and knocked it out of the park. They carried each other through that match, and it was just incredible. Like it was the best storytelling I've seen in wrestling. I could not pick another one. It's that one for me.
I think if you're a UFC fighter, you can actually take a lot just from watching the way they did it. Like, like the stare down and the way they slowed things down a little and they were able to build things. I know, like, it's obviously a fake sport, this and that, but they're just little elements to building towards you getting in the octagon with someone that you can really, and wrestling as well. Because right now everyone's just like at each other and it's all the same crap. Just slow it down, fellas. Build to it a little bit. Some notable mentions. What do you guys think of these? Obviously, the Hogan, Mr. T, Roddy Piper, Paul Orndorff from the first one. Roddy Piper and Goldust, when they did that weird match where like they replicated O.J. Simpson in the car and then the car hit Roddy Piper.
I might have missed that one.
Yeah, I was like, what? I remember when Roddy Piper did blackface. I don't remember the OJ.
Yeah, he did that as well. He also did a boxing match with Mr. T one year as well. Where
I remember that.
Stool and threw it at Mr. T because it was such a terrible moment. And also some terrible mentions. Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 20. We didn't mention that. That was just...
20. Yeah.
That was a shocker over there. That was a shocker. Big boos from the crowd. And Sting's WrestleMania match, building up to him basically walking out there with that bold spot. NWO running out, helping him. A DX. Kevin Nash slips over and hurts his leg. Like peak daylight. Looks like a retirement home. Ran out of soup. And then, of course, Triple H Batista, where he's literally yelling at Batista, like, spine buster, as he runs at him because the guy doesn't know how to wrestle. There's a lot more shit in there. But, guys, it goes into this weekend. As we wrap up, Oscar Willis, what's coming up on the Mac Life, my man?
I'm going to midget wrestling tomorrow, as I may have mentioned.
Beautiful.
And that's non-negotiable.
It's not the proper term.
That's what they call it. Okay, sorry, it's Micromania. So, yeah, I'm going to that. And then next week, Kansas City, and then... I think it's Montreal, right? Just big card after big card after big card.
How are they going to follow that 314? Here we go. What about you, Eric? Big things on Uncrowned. You guys are crushing it, man. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. We are live every Monday through Friday with something.
You sound so excited about it. You sound so excited.
I mean, it's just, when you've been
Give me more excitement, Rick. God damn it.
When you've been on top for so long, it just becomes routine. It's the same
it's just
old.
Missionary style, isn't it?
It's just missionary. You're getting the best interviews in the sport every Monday through Wednesday with Ariel, and then you get me and Connor chopping it up as nut jobs that we are. And then on Friday, you hit the crack with PT Carroll. But I will be in Des Moines, Iowa for that UFC card. I'm flying in just on the Saturday for the fights. Hopefully I see Oscar there, but hopefully I see some fans there. If you're in Des Moines, I'll be there.
What bet did you
don't ask for people, fans? Creepy.
Send the man to Des Moines, Iowa. God damn it! Yeah, Uncrowned office. Send this man to Des Moines, Iowa. I like it. That's going to be fun, man. I can't wait to watch you live at an event. And guys, that is us for Submission Radio Live. Big thank you to you guys, and a big thank you for everyone to tune in. Enjoy the weekend fights. Well, there's no fights. Enjoy the WrestleMania. And we'll catch you guys next week. Thank you so much.
Cheers, boys.
Bye.